I want to thank all of our esteemed panelists. We've got some great folks here who volunteered to come and share some of their wisdom. They're all experienced folks. I also want to thank Helene Papson, aka Vanna White, today from the Business Resource Network, which is an outreach of Ohio Means Jobs, and Helene's been a great partner with me in our business retention expansion meetings. But I want to give you folks each a chance. We'll just start here with Renee and go down and take about a minute or two and introduce yourselves.
Okay, great, thank you. Is this on or?
I think it'll work from there.
From
Just,
here? Okay.
Yeah, you can just talk.
You're loud now.
I'm loud enough? Bill says I'm loud enough, so we'll take that. Good morning, everyone. My name is Renee West. I am the Director of HR Consulting at Rea Associates. We're an accounting firm here in New Philly, and have worked in manufacturing HR for many years, and I'm happy to be here today and help share some resources for you.
Good morning. My name is Bill Larman. I'm with Allied Machine and Engineering and part of the Human Resources team, and been in this area for about 20 plus odd years. Yes, I came down from Michigan, the state up there, and still a U of M fan, sorry, but and that is rough at Allied, trust me, very rough at Allied. But I come from a little bit different background. I was in manufacturing most of my career, and probably the last, I'd say, 15 years have been in human resources. So understanding both, the controlled chaos of manufacturing, and then trying to be able to help them from the human resources side. And if you are not a part of the local SHRM group, Tuscarora chapter, please check us out and come and talk to us. We'd love to have you a part of that.
Are you guys able to hear okay?
Thanks, Bill. My name is Guy Peacher. I'm the Director of Human Resources at Dover Chemical Corporation. I'm also the President of the local chapter for the Society for Human Resources. So if any of you are interested and you'd like to talk to me after, it's a great organization. We do a lot of wonderful networking. I've been in the HR world probably for about that many years, and I've also been in the manufacturing arena for a number of years as well, and involved in operations. So welcome, thank you for coming. I do have a question for everybody. This is going to help me with my answers. How many people in this room are 50 and older? Just a general range, raise your hand. How many people are 40 to 50? Okay, now this gets a little tougher on HR because I have to add now. How many people are 30 to 40? Okay, and 20 to 30? Okay, thank you. That'll help me formulate here a little bit.
Hello everyone, my name is Logan Little with Ohio Means Jobs. I'm the Business Services Manager. I've only been with Ohio Means Jobs a little over a year now, so I'm hoping to bring some fresh perspective and some different things that I'm seeing about workforce to the panel.
Hi everyone, I'm Jessica Viller-Cruz. I'm with JobsOhio. My position is a talent acquisition service project delivery, and I've been in talent acquisition for about 15 years.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Michael Hart. I'm the Regional Talent Manager for TeamNEO. I've been with TeamNEO about 6-7 months now. Prior to that, over a decade of experience in recruiting and HR, specifically nonprofit, biopharmaceutical, and manufacturing.
All right, and Mickey did bring some materials. You want to?
Every year, TeamNEO releases 3 reports, or this past year we released 3 reports. We've got them back there. They're all wonderful data for you to read through. The big one is aligning opportunities. It's all about the demand and supply imbalance in the region's workforce, so it's mostly about credentialing and what we need to do to better align schools with business. This is the 2020 report. The next one comes out next Thursday. So if you're interested, we are doing a live stream or in person up in Cleveland if you want to be a part of that. The second one is lost opportunities. This one is about the pandemic's impact on working women in Northeast Ohio. So it'll provide all the data with just the amount we've lost and what we need to do to bring them back into the workforce. And then the final one is misaligned opportunities, and this one is all about racial inequities, how they cause skill gaps, and what COVID has done to further the racial divide in the workforce. So we've got copies of all three back there. If you want to take one, I highly encourage you to grab it and give it a read.
All right, so I've got some questions I want to throw out to the panel to get started, and we're going to open this up to all of you. And so, if you have a question, just kind of flag Helene down. She'll bring the microphone over to you. When we have a break, then we'll let you ask your question of the panel. But I'm going to start out with, if any of you would be willing to share just a couple of tips. So the last 19 months, we've been going through this pandemic. It feels like 19 years. And what are some things that human resource folks need to do differently now than they did 2 years ago? So if you've got one or two ideas, feel free to share.
I would say, being in HR, you have to think outside the box and look at how you have traditionally done things and think about doing them differently. I think all of us have been challenged enough that we've probably been doing things from a recruiting perspective we never thought we would have to do. But being open and thinking outside the box, I think, is very important.
Others?
Well, I think you need to stop thinking like a bunch of people that are in their late 50s and 60s, and you have to start thinking like the younger folks. You have to get into the social media. You have to use LinkedIn. You have to be able to text people. I mean, when we're talking to recruits, you got to get your phone out and you got to text. I have a hard time programming my DVD player. Matter of fact, I call my daughter all the time. So you have to be able to do these types of things to attract people. We're in a different society. We're in a different world.
Yeah, it's right now requires a wholesale mindset shift, not just in HR, but in your company as a whole. If anybody here has ever heard of Simon Sinek, he has this idea called the Golden Circle. And the basics behind it is people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And he uses that from a marketing standpoint, a sales standpoint, but that's especially true in HR and recruiting these days. Salary is a starting off point. People are getting into bidding wars going a buck over everybody else, but what everybody's forgetting is that there's more that goes into it, especially nowadays with all the women that have been out of the workforce due to childcare issues, women and men, people who are scared to go back to the workforce. Salary is a good jumping off point, but what are you doing to make it worthwhile? Why does somebody want to come work for you? Why do you want to continue to work where you're at? You have to think about that, and the entire company has to start thinking about that. Why does somebody want to work here? Why is this a great place to work? What do we do? And then market that to candidates.
Yeah, and I would just add that in a lot of the projects that I'm working in right now, we're focusing a lot on having the companies invest in recruitment brand. So kind of that marketing spin of things, to the earlier points, and then training and upskilling, definitely investing in that in your employees.
I think also part of it, we've all seen the Amazon ad, everybody, well, I can't work this, or, I've got to have this, and I've got to have benefits and all those things. So those are the things that everybody's up against. So part of it is, one thing is simple, is we have to listen. We've got to be able to listen to them and then be able to act on it. Where your strength is within your company, emphasize it. Definitely do that. But you're going to have to listen, and as Guy said, we have to think outside the box. And 5 years ago, I couldn't tell you that I text as much as I text now to the candidates. That's how my primary way of talking to them is through texting. But it works, because it's instant. It's right there. You try to leave a message on their phone. What do you get? Crickets. Try to send them an email. They never look at their email, you know?
If I could give you one tool, what we do at Dover and at, I'm also on the school board with James A. Garfield Local Schools up in Portage County. We conduct stay interviews with our employees. We'll pick a handful of 10, 12 employees, and we'll sit down and we ask them, why are you here? Why do you like it here? And we take their input and we try to build off of that. So it's kind of, and it's very simple. It's very helpful.
I think making sure to evaluate your value proposition to candidates and making sure that you're aware of what the candidates you're pursuing are needing from you. If you're looking to hire those in their 40s and 50s, what does that population value? I don't think there's a blanket policy that you can use to just attract workforce. So if you're trying to attract younger candidates, what do they value? Flexibility, potentially over wage. I've spoken with a lot of companies who are paying $2 an hour more than a competitor, but because the competitor it has a flexible second shift or doesn't require a second shift or some other sort of schedule flexibility, they have incumbent workers leaving to go elsewhere. So making sure that you are competitive in your area and your sector, I think goes a really long way.
If I could add something to kind of tie into what everyone has said here so far, in reference to the stay interviews, agreed, that is a great resource to have at your organization, but take that a step further and possibly consider employee surveys. And I don't say that to scare anyone. It doesn't have to be a 50-page survey at all. There are ways to talk with your people and really find out, again, why are they staying? What benefits do they like? Maybe there's a disconnect between what you as the owner of an organization or an HR person feel is important to your employees, and your employees are thinking, well, I don't use these type of benefits, or we don't see this type of program. So it helps organizations then to really look at where are you spending your dollars and are you spending them in the right place. And we've talked with a lot of clients that have just done a simple anonymous survey through SurveyMonkey and have really been able to cater back to their employees and improve communication. It helps with retention, so it's another great resource as well.
Student loan repayment is a big thing that people are considering nowadays, and there are more and more companies that are popping up that you can work with, that you can contract with to handle that for you. They can take it out of paychecks the same way you would do a 401k. You can work out your, as part of your comp packages, to provide a certain amount to go towards that the same way you can do your HSA. These companies also will provide counseling to your employees. It usually also is eligible for their family members as well. So if they want to become more educated on how to handle those payments, or how they can properly pay it off, or based on their paycheck, how much they should be putting forward, a lot of those are popping up that can be immensely helpful, considering just the amount of student loan debt we see these days.
I think another caveat to the conversation we're having about knowing what to do and what steps to take is really important, but I think what employees, especially currently employed staff, are looking to see is how nimble we can be. They watched us be nimble when stay-at-home orders came intact, and we moved at the drop of a dime. And I think that their expectations have shifted as well. So, we might know the flexibility that we need to give them. We might know what we need to increase their pay, but if we stand flat-footed and we're not willing to act on the knowledge we've accumulated, that's going to see people leave. That's going to negatively affect workforce acquisition. So just being able to have faith to take the next step, even when the return on investment might not be as clear, I think can go a long way with not only incumbent workforce, but also workforce you're looking to acquire.
Do you want to throw out a question? Anyone? I figured Mike would.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Mike Lauber, Tusco Display. My question's really going to be aimed at the three employers on this end. The communication tools that we've acquired expertise in over the last 19 months in particular has changed kind of the working relationship a lot of professionals now have with their workplace. Are you finding candidates who say, you know, hey Guy, can I do my work working for your chemical company remotely, or remotely 2 days a week, or do I have to be there to turn the knob to, you know, some jobs you physically have to be there, and in my business, you know, 2 out of 3 jobs, you have to physically be in a place. But are you finding among the professional staff in particular that people are saying, I want to know, sure, I want to know that your pay is going to be competitive and benefits and all those sorts of things, but will I have the flexibility to work remotely or in a hybrid arrangement going forward? And is that a competitive advantage or disadvantage, do you find?
I can tell you that we're a little bit flexible. We're not as flexible as we can be because most folks have to be there, and we're a little smaller. So we try to be as flexible with our employees as we can. Like some people may come in early, leave for a while, go take care of their kids, come back, or they might work from home when the need is there. I can tell you this, I helped assist with the recruiting effort for our company in New York for a period of time. The first question that they asked was, am I gonna have to drive in, because it's in Manhattan, am I gonna have to drive into the city? I'm not doing it. I'm not gonna do it. I could not find one person, and I was like amazed. No one wanted to go into work.
We at Allied, we hire a lot of engineers, and that really has not been an issue. They're engineers, you know, they want to get their hands dirty, they want to do some different things, so it really hasn't. It might be a question of, is there a possibility that that could happen? And yes, of course it is, and they're very open, you know, to be able to work both, whether it be remotely or whatever. But we have adopted and used Microsoft Teams, and that has been revolutionary. It really is. I mean, boom, you're right talking right there, and, or to a group, and sharing your different documents and things along that line. So that has really worked out very, very well for us. But it hasn't really been anything, you know, on that side of things. Of course, shop floor, yeah, no, you, just like yours, you got to be there.
From a professional services standpoint, you know, obviously an accounting firm is, we have the ability to work remotely in some roles, and that continues to be a request by a lot of our employees. So we have a work from anywhere program. We also have a hybrid schedule as well for some of our positions. A lot of the manufacturing clients that we work with, you know, we've talked with them about, as you mentioned, some of those jobs have to physically be there, but what other types of job rotation or job scheduling can you implement to give them an extra day off, or as Bill said, allow them the chance to go home if they have to do something, or really structuring their workday a little differently and being flexible on that can still provide them with a little relief, but yet still giving you that benefit of them being there on site.
And I could tell you from the old dude society, you know, when this all really hit us pretty hard, especially with the SHRM group, Allied Machine has been so gracious to our group. We have met there every month, face to face. We have speakers in. It's wonderful. Boom, the pandemic hits, we can't meet. So first we just stare at each other for a while, and then it's like, well, what are we going to do? Well, we have to have Zoom meetings. I never did a Zoom meeting in my life. And I could tell you the first couple times I did, I was throwing up in my mouth. But once you get used to doing these things, it becomes second nature. And, you know, everybody's so willing to help each other in these times. It's wonderful. So you gotta think out of the box right now. You just have to.
He's quite a guru now on the Zoom. He can do it in his sleep.
Yeah.
That flexibility you also have to consider competitive advantage, because it opens up your ability to recruit outside of the area as well. So if you're recruiting for those professional services that can work from home, you can ask them to be in the office 1 or 2 days a week, but that opens up your radius. Instead of recruiting from 15 to 20 miles in, all of a sudden you're going up to Cleveland, you're going out to Columbus, you know, you're widening the potential there to bring somebody in.
I know from an Ohio Means Jobs standpoint, now this information might be anecdotal, but you know, working with a couple hundred companies at any given time and seeing the return of investment from our social media outreach and the numbers that we see, jobs that are remote or have some remote capacity seem to have 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 times more people reached and shared on Facebook. So when people see those opportunities, they share them with friends and family, generating more outreach. We also see, we gather and screen resumes. And when we have a remote opportunity, you know, sometimes we'll have 40 resumes submitted to us within 24 hours. Whereas for the same opportunity without the remote capabilities, we might receive 2 or 3 applications. So from our viewpoint, any sort of remote opportunity, whether or not you'll get the outcomes you want, it will certainly generate more interest.
I want to add, I've seen some cities, and even the state of West Virginia, where they will, if you're a remote worker, primarily remote worker, they will pay you money to move there. And it varies from place to place how much and how it works out, but cities and states are marketing themselves as a great place for remote workers. Other questions? All right, I'll use one of mine. Social media has kind of come up. Logan was talking about quite a bit. What can you share some other tips for action and maybe retention as far as using social media? And I think Renee had some thoughts about that.
Thank you. Social media. So how many of you post on external sites like LinkedIn, Facebook for your jobs? I can't see over there, but a lot. Okay, good. Is everyone comfortable with that? I know there's sometimes some challenges with that. It's very important, and it's a very simple resource as well to use social media. And as we mentioned, everyone has their phones in front of them at all times, or it's very close to them. So from a company and an organization perspective, it's an opportunity for you to also showcase your organization. What is your culture? What are the benefits of working there, et cetera. So really utilizing LinkedIn for those professional jobs or local job sites in conjunction with the Tuscarawas County Jobs is another one, but really looking at Facebook. There's a lot of Facebook, Tuscarawas County Job Seekers. There's a lot of different groups where you can post your opportunities. And again, it's a big opportunity for you to really showcase your organization. And by doing those postings, you can link them back to your organization's website as well, because you want to drive those people to see really what you do. So it's important that your websites are updated as well, that you don't have a picture of people from 1980 that it's current, it's eye-catching, it gets them interested. Applicants have, and on the average, anywhere from 100 to 125 job alerts that come to them every day. So they're going to pick and choose and click, okay, this one looks good, take me to their website. If you have a vibrant website that's really, shows about what your company does for the community, what type of outreach they provide, what type of benefits they have, and one that just says we manufacture boxes, where do you think that applicant's going to go to? So it's a great resource for you to really look at that attraction of employees. Looking at social media and advertising your roles also help you attract what they call passive candidates. So maybe an employee that's already working and isn't necessarily looking for something, but would be interested in moving if an opportunity was of interest to them. So it keeps that active out there, and those are really those key employees that, especially in this market, individuals are really looking at what might that next opportunity be for me, and it's a great way to attract additional candidates. Just a few thoughts.
I think especially in terms of Facebook, you want to garner your own following, and that's important. But you also want to be able to utilize their groups, Facebook groups. There are workforce groups for different geographical areas. There are workforce groups for different trades. Making sure you're getting in front of the people that you're looking for is really important. I know my recruiters, we just found a workforce group out of Canal Fulton that had a following of 40,000 people. So just by adding that group to where our message is going, we hit 40,000 more people. And that's so important to drive up numbers, get your posting in front of people. I think in this new age of social media with TikTok and Snapchat, people's focus when they're on social media is so laser focused. You have their attention for maybe 15 seconds. So to make sure that, if you're willing to share a salary is there and it's in the forefront. To make sure your job description is as succinct and accurate as possible so people know what they're looking for. As a little caveat to that, if you're using Indeed or virtual platforms, making sure that the keyword you're using for people to look, if you're looking for a CNC machinist, making sure that it says CNC machinist and not some other maybe colloquial vocabulary that you have about that position, making sure that it can get in front of as many people as possible is the goal, and then driving those outcomes afterwards is so very important.
Everybody has their own that they possibly use. What works for us the most at Allied, one of them is Ohio Means. If you're in contact with your person and you're looking specifically for certain things, they will help you immensely. And we have, this year alone, we've hired somewhere around 70. And I would say about 30% was through Ohio Means. And it just pinpointed it. And when they come through, also the other thing is when they're applying, who sent them there. A lot of it says Ohio Means. The other one that we utilize a lot is LinkedIn. LinkedIn helps also. I have not, I'll be honest with you, because we're all wanting to know who does what. Indeed does not help me very much. Reason being is you put it out there and the next thing you know, you're specific. I mean, you are specific on what you're wanting and you don't get anywhere close to that, and you're looking for in your area, you put it, hey, within 25 or 30 miles of my area, right? Next thing you know, I got people from Dallas, Texas and everything else. And I'm like, that doesn't help. So that's why I like the LinkedIn and using Ohio Means and our own personal website is people go on to Allied's website. It's cool. It's a cool website. You want to see some machines and products and all that kind of great stuff. It's there, and then that attracts them, and then it goes in, and it's not a hard process at all. That's the other thing. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Do not make it a hard process to apply. I remember, I'm dating myself, 10 plus years ago, and I went into, and if you're here from Timken, I'm sorry, but I went into Timken to apply, and it was 2 hours. 2 hours. And I'm like, holy cow, And so make it simple, and I do believe we have. We have an individual in our HR group, Janine Garber. She's right there. She's going to stay quiet. She's our director. But she is amazing at the technology and understanding. Let's make it easy. Let's make it simple. And then when we gather the information, it goes into our system, and then we've got it. That's the positive. Anyways, just my perspective.
If you're going to navigate or attempt to navigate the treacherous waters that are Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, the hard and fast rules are: if you can't be informative, be funny. If you can't be funny, share dogs and cats. And if you can't do that, just hand it off to a younger person. If you are on those social media sites, the most important thing that you can do to represent your company is be human. If any of you are on Twitter, one of the best follows right now is the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District, because they make sewer jokes every day about everything. And then they'll make fun of New York City next week. They're just doing like little things like that. You're like, Regional Sewer District, like who cares? Like who really ever thinks about that on a daily basis? But they've done such a good job. And you see some of these others like Wendy's and McDonald's and Amazon. Obviously, they have brand cash, but their social media works so well is because they're human, because they're talking about the human experience and, you know, what's the value of working there. A lot of what you do has to focus on finding that middle ground between a person's values and beliefs and what you offer as a company, and then putting that out there in the world. You know, who do your products support? Are you a military contractor? That's a great thing to put out there on social media, how your products help keep the military safe or keep them running. You know, if your products are used in cars and automobiles, use that. But whatever you do, use that. Big thing right now is also videos. You know, I'm at the end of the target audience right now of that millennial group, but I can't tell you how many times I get sucked into social media just, you know, watching people work CNC machinery. You know, all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I've wasted 20 minutes, but this was so interesting to watch. Nobody knows, you know, outside of working in the manufacturers, what goes on, what these machines do, how they operate, you know. So get your camera out there, you know, walk into the plant and take 10 minutes to watch somebody, you know, using some sort of CNC machinery or what they're doing when they're welding. People like watching those videos. They're interesting.
Yeah, to add to that, we actually had a company that we were supporting very much to that was creating a TikTok video. And basically they just followed this person all day to show what they did and lunchtime and the parking lot and just some of the product that they were completing and what step in the process they were in. And for me, it was very much a, wow, this is kind of cool. And it was a 15-second video and it was short and sweet, but I didn't know what this company really did before, so I actually got to see what they did, and the people that were on the video were actually really happy and excited to do what they were doing and felt like they were proud to do it. So things like that I think is really compelling. So that kind of persona building is important for people to kind of relate to what they're seeing on the other side.
The selling point to that video was the fact that they used the Family Matters theme song as the background music. But it was a good way to kind of bring in, you know, this is a family environment.
I also, go ahead. I just wanted to bring a little bit of job seeker perspective. I've seen, as we screen and review resumes, I've seen a lot of resumes that have solid qualifications, a good work history, but they might not know how to articulate that. So if you're leveraging sites like Indeed that run on algorithms that are looking for specific wordings of skills, you could be filtering out 50% of wonderful candidates simply because as a job seeker who might not have refined job seeker skills, they're eliminating themselves unknowingly. So having alternative methods of sourcing resumes, leveraging other resources so that way you can still find those candidates is really important.
If you take your best, at least I feel my best social media networking tool is the people that you hire, the new people that you hire, without getting a restraining order filed against you, you stalk them. You sell your culture, you sell your values. Those people will text and let other people know how good you are. So you have to sell your culture. You have to take the time to build a relationship. Send the employee, I mean, it's not a big deal. You send somebody cookies when they start and say, hey, so-and-so, and all your family members, you know, Guy, Katie, Allie, Samantha, we'd like to welcome you to our family. It costs you $20. And boy, does it touches a lot of people until you screw up their paycheck or their insurance.
Yeah.
I will ask my question and also say for the record, I did not pay Bill to say anything nice about me today, but Bill, thank you. I am Janine Garber. I'm with Allied Machine. I'm fortunate enough to work with Bill and represent a great company, but you know, everything that you've spent time talking about, social media, all of these things, you know, in my mind, that's marketing. Marketing owns that in our company, and it is a challenge to get the HR slant to a marketing-driven function, because a lot of those things are so customer-facing. So can you kind of address, ways to get to the table from an HR perspective to be able to interject some of those things, and how to do that and have it still not fall on the HR. One more role that the HR department can do is also manage our social media. We don't want that, but we also want a seat at the table in order to drive some of that. So any feedback on that would be appreciated.
So I've been in my role 6 or 7 months now, and prior to that I was a talent acquisition manager for MGM Northfield Park up north. So I do have some experience in this regard, and the big thing I would say is, again, it goes back to that mindset shift. Companies stay up at night thinking about how do we market our products to get it out there and to stay successful and to bring the money in. That mindset shift is, it's just as important to think that way when it comes to recruiting and bringing candidates in. That same type of ingenuity and innovation that you're doing to market your products is just as important on the recruiting side. You can no longer post on Indeed, get 100 candidates, filter them out, 20 you're interested in, 10 that show up, 5 that actually interview well, 3 that you hire, 2 that show up. That doesn't really work anymore. You've got to be innovative there, and that's, if they want some hard and fast facts to back that up, I mean, since the pandemic, we've lost 5 million people in the workforce in the United States. 2.5 million of those are from the baby boomer generation who retired early. 2.4 million of those are women. Almost 1 million of those are men who have shifted to part-time work because of family issues. They're just not able to make full-time work, so they've got to do whatever they can there. With the Great Resignation, we've got a couple million people resigning every month. Those numbers alone should be alarming, that in the U.S. we're losing that many people in the workforce that quickly. And that doesn't even take into account how many people that have died because of COVID, or the opioid pandemic has been huge. In 2015, we had lost about 800,000 people to the opioid pandemic. So you have all this stuff going on where the workforce is shrinking, and then you put on top of that, the United States hasn't hit the birth replacement rate since 1973. So people aren't having kids at the same rate, means the workforce just isn't there. So, not to be the Debbie Downer, but that's the reality we have right now, and things aren't going to get any better. So the only way that companies will survive is going to be a combination of automation and being creative and taking those risks when it comes to recruiting and social media and things like that to get your name out there.
Thanks. Are you guys, we don't have anything scheduled after this. Are you guys good for another 10 minutes of panel discussion? Yeah? Okay. You got a question, Robert? Okay. Let me throw out a thought. Going back to making the application simple, especially if you're doing an online application. I used to work at Ohio Means Jobs in the resource room for 7 years before I started this job. And I worked with a lot of those folks that are applying for your jobs. And there were some folks, particularly some guys that would come in who, they weren't real good with their words. They weren't real good with computers. But man, I knew they were good with their hands. But they would try to get online and do an application. And, if it was 4 or 5 pages long, they would get about 2 pages in and just go, I can't do this, and walk out in frustration. So I would encourage you with your applications, and watch out for your applicant tracking system like Logan said. Some of those folks will get filtered out. They would be great workers, but your technology is a hindrance to them sometimes. So, Robert?
Yeah, so earlier, whenever you began the panel discussion, you mentioned thinking outside the box, progressive thinking, and the mind shift. From my experience working with a lot of our clients at the Wellmore Center, a lot of these individuals who have felonies and a criminal record are still largely discriminated against by good entry-level jobs. My question is, with the employee shortage and the companies are facing with hiring individuals, is this something that this demographic of individuals, is this something that HR managers are willing to look past now to possibly give people a second chance? Because especially if they're connected with a program like the Wellmore Center and the VTEP program, which is coaching these individuals. They've been doing good in treatment. Yes, they have a little bit of a past, but they've shown a lot of responsibility and accountability that even some people who may not have a criminal history don't even show. So I was just wondering if it's something that any of the HR managers now in hiring ones are willing to look past.
I think that's a great question, and we have actually worked with a number of clients that have really looked at what their hiring policies maybe had been prior, and have really looked at providing opportunities for those individuals that maybe they would not have offered opportunities to before. But also keeping in mind having that person tied to some type of program is definitely helpful. There's a lot of companies that are thinking outside that box and really expanding and giving individuals opportunities. So I definitely feel that that's something that we'll continue to see some growth in that area as things move forward.
We try our very best, at Allied to be able to investigate into that. It's not, we're just gonna, throw it off to the side. It's not that way. I will attest that we have really tried hard. What gets in the way is honesty. That's what gets in the way. If you're not going to be honest with us up front, when we start talking about those things, and then all of a sudden we start finding out stuff, that all you had to do is be honest with us. If you're not going to be honest with us in the very beginning, then I'm sorry. That's usually what happens. I'm being honest with you. It's not that we have not tried. We have tried. And some instances, things have worked out. Other instances, it's not going to.
When you look at it from a liability perspective, you have to be somewhat careful. When you hire folks, you have to think about what the lawyer is going to say to you when you're sitting on the stand saying, well, you hired this employee, you knew they had a violent background, and you have to evaluate how you can deal with that. And there are a lot of circumstances when you can, if you can show the rehabilitation of that person and you could show the steps were taken, I think you can take a step forward and give. There's not one person in this room that hasn't made a mistake. Some of them may be larger than others, and sometimes it does hold people back, but you got to evaluate the situation, and you have to. I mean, if somebody's 35, 40 years old and they sold a bag of weed when they were 18 and they got arrested, I mean, come on. But if they robbed a bank and they beat 10 people up, you got a little problem on your hands. So you just have to evaluate the situation. But I think all of us need to be really, if you go back to the 60s, not that I was around then, but if you go back to the 60s, if you could breathe, people hired you. They didn't care. And we're there right now. Only it's worse now with finding folks than it was then. So you have to be more flexible.
As HR professionals, it's an uneasy conversation to have because we're all used to avoiding risk whenever possible. But some of the questions that you have to ask and the conversation you have to have is, why do we have background checks? What's the purpose? Is it due to liability? Is it due to insurance? Or is it just because it's the way we've done it for the past 20 years? Same with drug tests. I'm big on data. In the state of Ohio, about 11.7 million people. Of those, about 1 million of them have a felony on their record. So if you automatically discount felonies, you've lost that many people from your potential hiring pool. When it comes to drug tests, medical marijuana is legal in Ohio. We have 300,000 people who have the recommendation for the card, about 150,000 who have actively used it, and we're staring down the barrel of legalization. So when it comes to drug testing, again, why do you do it? Is it because of liabilities? Is it because of insurance? There are positions, if you're putting them on a tow motor or behind a wheel or operating heavy machinery, that's important. But when you look at the science behind marijuana, it's one of those things where, we could cut out a good portion of candidate base if we test for that. At MGM, we got rid of it across all of the resorts. So that's all over the world. That's all 27 they have in the US. Got rid of marijuana testing unless you were driving a vehicle or you were a lifeguard at a pool. So it's something to consider, you know, do we still need this? If we do still need this, how do we change it to benefit us to continue to widen our candidate pool?
You know, there's so many different businesses, okay, and everybody's going to do their own thing. We are a manufacturer. We make sharp objects. Safety is the number one thing, flat out, with us. So, yeah, we drug screen. You know, and that's why, is because of our safety. And our safety record is impeccable, meaning that the insurance companies come to us and ask us, what are you guys doing? Your numbers are off the charts, you know? Well, it's because we have great people, and we have a great team, and we have a process, and that's how we follow it. And that's flat out. So that's my little speech.
I've had Bill on panel discussions before, and so here's a tip. If you interview at Allied ever, and they ask you what's job number one, it's safety, okay? Just insider tip.
You just gave it away.
Elizabeth?
Thank you. I just wanted to give a commercial for our court. I work for the Common Pleas Court. We have an action called a CQE, Certification for Qualification for Employment. It's anointed by the Ohio legislature. It's a process where somebody gets an investigation and a court of common pleas judge basically looks at the background despite the record and says, yes, certified or not, and it addresses that liability question that came up. CQE, and it's on our website.
Great, thank you. I want to...
Like record, it's not like sealing or expungement. That has to do with time. I think they are supposed to apply where they reside, but they can do it in any county in Ohio, and then it's a certification that the employer gets to see. And it's unlike sealing. This is for someone who didn't qualify for an expungement or a sealing of the record.
I want to throw out one last question for everybody. We have, in our county, we have about 16,000 people, no, 15,000 people that drive into the county to work. But we have 21,000 people that drive out of our county to work. So we are a net exporter of workforce. It's about a 6,000 person difference. So how do we, as a community or as companies, how do we market and connect with those people that are driving out of the county and invite them to stay here and work here in Tuscarawas County? So for anybody.
Gas prices.
That's a
Raise-
good point.
Lower gas prices here?
Well, you don't have to drive as much.
Okay, so lower your gas bill?
And we've had that. We've
Right.
had that happen.
The other thing is Jessica, and I wrote this down before I heard her speak. I didn't know who she was till today. We need to start, all of us need to start to work together to create our own pipeline of people and grow that pipeline so people stay attracted to your county. Heck, I live in Portage County. I'm going to use someone in Mahoning County if I can to get people and to get something going down here to help grow our business and even help our community. It's really up to us to try to get cohesive, and stealing from each other, it's going to happen. People are going to leave and go somewhere. They're going to leave and go somewhere else anyhow. So we live with it, we make it work, and we don't let Bill recruit everybody for Allied while he's sitting up here. So they do a great job, though.
Janelle?
Another comment regarding your question. Oh, thank you. So I'm from Cincinnati. I'm an economic developer. Just moved to Stark County 4 years ago, but I spent 20 plus years doing economic development in the greater Cincinnati region. And to your question, so we start doing urban revitalization around 3 of the largest institutions in uptown Cincinnati, that surrounds the university and all the hospitals. You also have the zoo. And so you got these 5 major employers that are 50,000 people are driving in to this area to go to work, and then they drive home. So we were like, what can we do to get these people to live here, work here, play here, pray here, just be here? They didn't want to be there because the neighborhoods were run down, they were blight, crime, you name it. So they drive in and they drive out. So we created this economic development plan with a consortium of all the 5 institutions. We got their HR folks together, we started doing job fairs, we cleaned up the streets, all type of clean and safe initiatives. So we did a lot of initiatives around that to get those people to want to stay in the area. So before you know it, you got housing, affordable housing, we got parks, the schools cleaned up, and it wasn't overnight. This is like a 10-year thing. And now that area is the 2nd largest employment center in the greater Cincinnati region. So I'm saying just keep collaborating, the institutions get together, do job fairs, and just, I'm not saying steal people, but you make it attractive where people want to live there, work there, and play there.
Thank you. All right. So,
Two things. Because I do get a lot of phone calls from other HR people asking, how do you do it at Allied? What's your secret sauce? We don't have a secret sauce, but one of the things that we have that is awesome, and because it's my first question, when somebody asks me, what do you guys do? And I'm asking the question, how's your training program? And what do I get? Sometimes crickets, or they're going to be, that kind of thing. We have an amazing training program, and it's been around for 15 years, long before I got there, and it's been tweaked all along. And I'm not kidding you. It is, they've got great training. Doesn't matter where they're at. That's why we love hiring from the fast food industry. They've got to make the same product taste the same way, whether it's here in Dover or whether it's in Cincinnati, Ohio, right? So they're coming in and they understand those things. But they only can run $1 million CNC machine because we have a training program, and we've got trainers that are awesome. We have mentors that are great. It just is, and it works. It works because they're scared to death when people walk in and they're staring at $1 million machine, and they're like, oh, what am I going to do now? Oh, just don't touch that button, then it all blows up, But no. And the other thing is that what we do is referral program. We have referral cards. Who all has referral plans? Does it work? Yeah. It works for us. It does. It works. And I'm just telling you, those are the 2 things that we have at Allied that can separate us from most people. We have the training program that's going to train great people. We look for attitude, dependability, productivity, in that order. And then we train for that, and then the referral cards helps us amazingly. So, sorry I'm on my soapbox, but I'm just telling you, that's what works. Won't just work just for Allied. It'll work for everybody. It really will. It takes a lot of work to get there, though, because if you talk to somebody about training programs, they're going to roll their eyes at you. They're going, oh, God, Okay.
Frank?
5 years down the road, you'll be benefiting from it.
Thank you. Frank Pullen, Buckeye Career Center. Just want to extend this opportunity. We talk about growing our own workforce a lot through the Advanced Manufacturing Corridor. Annually, we'll have 850 students, juniors and seniors, 850 to 1,000 juniors and seniors annually in our building, 500 of which are going to graduate. Each and every time people ask, we need people to help work, we'll invite you, beg you, come anytime you want. Watch specific students, watch specific labs, They're there. They are in skill-created, job-ready labs that want to work for each and every one of you. Mr. Alsep always says, Ryan Day, he doesn't wait for a senior in high school to identify who the best quarterback in the nation is to recruit him. I guarantee you Ryan Day knows every best quarterback there is from 7th grade to now. We have a lot of students over there. About 500 are going to graduate here in May, looking for jobs, looking for skills. Our increase of military kids enrolling have gone up, and here's why. The recruiters are there. They come and they sit in lunch. They come and they pass out materials. That opportunity is there for each and every one of you as well. As much as you want, whenever you want. We'd like to have you to come join us at any time. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Frank. All right, I think we'll call it. It's been an hour. The panel discussion, twice as long as we had planned, but let's give our panelists a round of applause. I will have a number of things that I'm going to send out to you, a link to the recording of today's event, some other recordings. We'll have Mike O'Donnell's PowerPoint slides to share with you. Feel free to grab some of the TeamNEO reports on the table back there. Feel free to take a little time before you go and talk to our folks at the vendor tables here. They've got a lot of services to offer. Thank you for coming, and I hope this was beneficial and a value to your companies. So have a great weekend. Thanks.